I mentioned to someone this morning that I had some problems with my stomach that I won't go into the depth of it, but my experience in ever telling anybody that I have a problem, especially health-wise, is the immediate response of, here's what you have to do. I have the answer. This is the problem. And this has happened for years. I mean, years. And it was really worse in the 60s when everybody had macrobiotics. And I mean, there were so many answers back in the 60s when we were all discovering new theories and theorems of how to treat all of our illnesses. And even to this day, it's give up wheat and eat this and add that. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And I've had someone who I love deeply send me all these Chinese herbs, and there's so many responses. But what gets me is the absolute certainty that they have the answer. Because why? Usually, in the most authentic version, it worked for them. Therefore, it has universal application. It worked for me, I know. And it's really interesting because you deal with a lot of spiritual people who are very open and very much trying to be free of limitation and structure and rigidity. And the moment you say you have a problem, I have the answer. Sorry, I did not mean to scare you with that. It's shocking what it reveals. What it reveals and how much we trust and believe in our own experience, in our own worldview, in the world that we have been tutored in by outside experience, by structures of people, doctors, philosophies, whatever it is that tells us this is the answer. And of course, it's not just in the health field. It comes in every aspect of life, that we all have these, I won't call them hidden, but they're belief systems inside that really define us. And you don't know what it is until you put out a vulnerability. Once you express a vulnerability to anybody, the thing that rises up in them to take charge, to give you direction, to give you the thing that you're going to need to get better, is shocking. And their authority is often somebody else's authority. Somebody else gave them, this is what it is, and therefore one just says, well, it can't be other than that, because this is what they told me and it worked for me. Therefore, the lineage, boom, 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 is it will work for you. And I tend when that happens, I try to be kind to it, but I was not kind this morning. I just jumped at it, and have done that now to more and more people, because if I gave you the list of all the, from coconut oil to, it goes on and on and on, the very thing that's going to take care of everything. I get to the point of going, what is your authority? From whence cometh this great knowledge and absolutism in your sense of things? Why do you know this? And again, it comes down to, well, it worked for me. So the authority is I. I know this. I. And what is that I that has such conscious ownership of this information? Well, I'm not going to answer that question, but you should look at that. Everybody should look at that, because it has unbelievable fortitude and strength in your composition. It defines you. And it's that little bit of you're showing a vulnerability and somebody else jumping in, that kind of superior, they don't always look at it as superior, but it really presents itself that way. This knowingness that you are somehow, in expressing vulnerability, opening yourself up to the truth of somebody else's system. And I mean, honestly, when I go to the doctor, I do the same thing. I give the doctor that authority. So we all give someone the authority. But I've gone to doctors who say, this is how it is. And I go, whoa, whoa. I really like doctors who say, let's try to figure out what this is. Let's look at it. Let's rule out this, this, and this, and that, and then we can get to the core, perhaps, of what's going on. And I have managed to find a doctor in Marin County who's very good like that. You know, he really says, let's get rid of the serious possibilities, and then let's look into the underpinning sources of the problem, because there are certain things that are life-threatening. If they don't diagnose that, there's a problem. Once you rule that out, you have more time and ability to kind of get into the possible causes of something. And I say possible because there are infinite things that go on in us. And so once you live your own life and you know, like this situation I'm dealing with, I've had since I was a kid, and there's been a lot of talk about it, a lot of answers, lots of doctors, lots of things, only now it's erupted in a more unpleasant way. And I'm not going to go into it because I know I'm going to get notes from everybody who hears this talk about their solution to it. But I will tell you, there is a kind of diagnostic aspect that's valuable, and there is a non-diagnostic aspect that's valuable, which is sitting with it, being with it, looking at it, talking to it. Speak to me. Why are you here, and what do you have to tell me? What is this about? How can I approach you rather than run from you? How can I embrace the discomfort rather than fear it? How can I try not to medicate it away, but find, in a sense, the core elemental underpinnings of whatever this is? And it's not something most of us want to do because we all want easy answers, and we all want the pill or the quick thing, the shot, the antibiotic, whatever it is you think is going to do it for you. But we're very complex beings. You know, we have enormous input over the course of however many years we're alive, and it defines us in very specific terms. And it's a constantly evolving system that we represent, and forces come in from the outside and the inside, from our mind, from our emotions, from our thoughts. All of these things are working the system that we are. And anybody who comes to you and says, I have the secret, I have the answer, I know the way, is going to betray the complexity and the unknown truth of your being. If anything, it's a kind of gradual moving toward the problem, a looking at it from whatever multiple directions you can get at until something either gets it, works for you, or explains itself to you in a rather fundamental way. All of these will be temporary experiences, temporary conditions in our biological life, until one of them isn't temporary, until one of them is the thing you have been guarding against, fearing, curious about your entire life. Something will arise, and you all know one day you'll go to the doctor and they're going to say, this is that thing. And you may always think that everything that comes up is that thing. I mean, that's kind of a condition for people like me. You know, okay, this is it. You know, and I am prepared on a regular basis to hear that and say, okay. I have had such a wonderful, full, complete life on so many levels. There's not much that holds me to this world so much anymore. And so when I think this may be that, I go, okay. And when it's not that, I go, oh my God, now what? I got more years here. And I have to figure out what that is and what to do with that, but it's not even figuring it out, because you don't really figure it out. You really don't do that. You until that moment arises that says end of the line, over, finished, turn off, push the button, out of here. Until that arises, here you are. And it's really interesting to be here and to fulfill something that you think is important in being here. And everyone builds that into the equation. You go to school, when you start to grow up, what do you want to do in your life? What do you want to be in your life? As though what you are isn't enough, and that doing will define you. So what do you want to do? And and it comes up automatically. I mean, you just start, talking to kids, what do you want to do when you grow up? And so they're all conditioned to think about that, and this idea of what do you want to be, as though you're going to be something that will not be what you are. You will be, who knows, a mommy, a daddy, a professor, a athlete. There's always things that will define us as something. And so life begins very much focused on that, and it's kind of a necessary focus, because to sustain oneself in this world that we're in, the world of extraordinarily growing complexity, you have to have a path or a thing that you do that will keep that sustaining element in play. In other words, to attract that which will bring you food and shelter and comfort and all the things you want in life. And that's an evolving awareness, something you grow into as you get older. And then at my age, something really interesting has happened, which is I have no agenda. I woke up the other day and I said, I have nothing to do. I mean, at all. And it's the first time I think I've felt that since I was maybe 4 years old. When I used to wake up in the morning and go, the day, there's a whole day, to be filled. It was like a thrill of, I can go over and play with so-and-so, and I can go to the empty field and dig a hole, and I can play in the sandbox. I mean, there were just wonderful potentials, but I had nothing to do. It was just, I could fill the day. And so what I have discovered in having nothing to do, and it's been coming at me more and more gradually, but it's really pretty incredible, is that the day fills itself. Stuff arises. It arises to fill the space, and it's satisfying. You get the unexpected email that requires a whole new kind of response to a person or the day or to the next few days, or if things suddenly come up that are really out of the blue, and you just go, so that's what it is. Phone calls out of nowhere. I mean, literally out of nowhere. I had a phone call the other day. It was actually a suicide phone call. I didn't know it until halfway through it. But this person was crying and crying, and I was just talking and talking, and then suddenly it was clear that they called me as the last person they wanted to talk to before they killed themselves. And I wasn't expecting that call that day, and my whole heart just poured open, and I believe, prevented that kind of action. And it was like, if you just show up and are available to the day, it attracts the stuff that fills the time and the space in very satisfying, fulfilling ways. And often what happens in our lives is that we fill our day with rigid, preformed structures that we created when we were very young. I have to do this, I have to become that, I have to have this kind of life. All of these things form, And so our day doesn't arise, it's built. It's built long before the day comes. Where suddenly there we are with the day and we have no choice in it. We're not available to what is, we're only available to what we must do. And it's heavy. It's heavy. And it's demanding. And it's soul disruptive. Because we don't know who we are in this. We made a choice somewhere in elementary school, high school, college, somewhere along the way. This is what I am, this is what I do, this is what I'm going to be. And life maybe fulfills that. And if life doesn't fulfill that, for example, if life starts to deny you the thing that you think you need and want, then there you are. Not only are you frustrated by the rigidity of what you want, but you're frustrated by the rigidity of what you don't have. So you're doubly sort of condemned into your own suffering because you don't know anything about who you are, what you are, and the day that arises becomes torment. It's not the day you want, it's the day that shouldn't have been. Why this? Nothing's happening. I'm just sitting here. Why didn't my life work? Why didn't that happen? And one gets into this horrible, horrible condition of what isn't. And the frustration and the pain of what isn't. And what does one do with lives that are so ultimately painful, dissatisfying, intermittently okay, intermittently fine, but often falling back into the problem areas that you've had forever? And how do you find your way back to just being? One of the keys, and I'm going to quote this from forgetting her name, Perry. What's her name? She's a wonderful teacher. I forget her name, but anyway, her title of her book, and maybe you'll know it from this, is "Love What Is." Byron Katie. Thank you. Love what is. So, let's look at that. Here you are in a structured life impacted by the demands of everything around you, nothing that you want to do, don't even know why you chose it. You're caught in the thrall being the wrong word, in the demand of your day-to-day existence, and you're hating it. Either hating what you're doing or the hating that you're not doing what you want to be doing, or whatever it may be. Whatever the absolute conundrum that you're facing is, the fact that you don't like it and the fact that you hate it creates the problem and the suffering. I often talk about accepting what is as a key. Accept what is. If it's in front of you, it's yours. Hating it has no value. Accepting it makes you work it, and ultimately maybe helps you to work out of it or beyond it. But even if it doesn't do that, the accepting it really allows you to stop fighting the reality of your existence. And that starts to reduce some of the misery and suffering in your life. But the possibility that you could love what is. And I'm talking about all of this discordant stuff in your life, not the stuff that's harmonious and fine and good. The stuff that feels edgy and uncomfortable and anxious and full of doubt, and trying to just look that in the eye and going, wow, I'm feeling so uncomfortable right now. I have, let's say, a pain in my gut. I have a headache. I have, a meeting with someone I don't want to meet with. I have to go somewhere I don't want to go. I have all of this stuff. And just go. Quiet it down. Open to it. Say yes to it. Stop fighting it and move toward it and enter it. And my experience is, if you do that, something in you goes, okay. And as you start to go okay, to having lunch with someone you didn't want to have lunch with, to calling the person you didn't want to have a conversation with, to facing the fact that you just got a bad job review. Whatever it is, you just, okay. You take it in, and this thing starts to happen because you don't fight it. This thing happens to those of you who've been working your heart chakra for however long you've been meditating. This thing just goes, and the very thing that was causing corrosion and suffering and difficulty just melts. It just melts. And you go, and you sit across from a table with somebody you didn't want to be with, and you suddenly realize you like this person. And if you're lucky, by the end of the meal, you love them. You love them. Even people you don't care about. Even people you don't know. It's so interesting when your heart chakra really starts to open. When you really begin to know who you are, everyone is a reflection of yourself. And if you don't love someone, it's a deep sign that you're not open to loving who you are. The measurement of your spiritual development, if you will, is how much you love those around you. Rudy had a great line. He used to say, "Judge the success of your spiritual life by the happiness of the people around you." Not your happiness. The happiness of people around you. That's how well you're doing as a spiritual person. But for your own self, learning to go inside and open and love the moment. And it's not like you have to love it. You don't have to, I have to love this moment, which is a horrible obligation and really hard to do. What you do is you relax, you get quiet, you open, you become present, you show up, and what's so interesting about being present and showing up is love is there. It's there. You don't have to love, it's loving that's taking place. When you just are still, when there is no agenda, everything you need arises. Bless you. Everything you need arises. And this is one of the most powerful and important things about spiritual life. So many ways to put this, but we're all looking for a constant state, and preferably a constant state of bliss. And a lot of people talk about awakening and enlightenment as being a state of bliss, permanent bliss. But it's not like that. It's a permanent state of the thing you need emerging. The thing that needs to be arises endlessly. If your mind is judging it, if your mind is interacting with it, your mind will go, oh, I don't want that. Oh, not that one. You know, you'll be dismissive of the stuff that arises. But if you have learned to just surrender and get out of the way, everything that arises, unbidden, becomes the very thing you need at the moment. Always. Always. Once you understand that every moment of your life is exactly as it must be, and if you can allow it to be without judgment, without reaction, without referencing it, without having to interpret it, without having there to be a you and an it, if you just step back and let it be, you will be amazed at the brilliance of your own life, at the absolute gift of the moment-to-moment reality of your life. So when I wake up with nothing to do, it's really fascinating, because I'm not sitting there edgy about what's going to happen, what's next. I can read the newspaper. I could listen to music. I can and often do now sit on that little porch swing downstairs and just stare out into the valley. And I don't have any guilt about it. I don't have any sense that says, you could be doing something more important or better or other. None of that. I'm just sitting, being. And then what happens, I have to go to the bathroom, the phone rings, something says, look at your email. You all know about that. And then there's something there that calls your attention, and the day starts to fill up with all of that. And if it doesn't happen, I go back and sit on the swing. And it's fine. Now I know I'm in retired mode, and it's different from where you're at. So the day has structure and it has demand, and you have to meet that demand. But it's the same basic idea. If you meet the day with love, meaning not you're trying to love it, but that you're just open to it. And if you trust what arises, because stuff will arise all day long, some of it friendly, some of it unfriendly, some of it sweet, some of it sour, some bitter, whatever it is, as it comes up, you just go, you just get it, you look at it. It's really interesting. When I work with each of you, the first thing that happens when I sit with you is there's two people. And everyone is sitting with their particular complexity. And the complexity not only of a whole life, but very much of what's coming in the moment. And there is usually a kind of a discord of some kind. Something in each person that's not quite there. That's still held in check by the ride here, by what's happening this afternoon, by their age-old drama that's suddenly percolating in their head. Everyone's in a funny place. It's their own place. Some of them are predictable. Some of you guys have patterns that I know when I sit with you, I get the pattern. I've been there with you, however, 21 times. So I get that there's stuff going on. And it's not even me getting it. There's just this thing that happens. There's two, and then this presence starts to waft into you. And I can usually tell when there's a part of you that goes, oh, and you just sort of back away. You just sort of back away from confronting it, wanting to use it, worrying about what I'm seeing in you, all of that stuff. It just starts to loosen. It gets lighter. And there's a kind of harmonic aspect. It's like the lighter you get, the more this helium, in a way, fills you, the more you begin to, oh. And it's really interesting because it knows exactly where to go in you. And it's a dance because you can engage it or not engage it, but it will engage you in a very big way. And it will come in, and this thing starts to, it's almost like courting. It's like going on a date until you find the moment where you realize, I like this person. I want to be with this person. This love happens. Let's put it that way. Love happens. And it's so unexpected. And it's just so sweet. And it's like, oh. And then there's a breaking down of all these barriers, and then this enormous sense of crescendo, if you will, the kind of a musical thing, like chords being struck, the harmonies come out, and it's so lovely. And you can just feel it. And the sitting with someone doesn't end until that happens. Nobody is left without, ta-da! Nobody. And so it just happens. It happens. And almost certainly you will be aware of it. Sometimes you may not be aware of it, but 99% of the time you will feel, ah. Now there's a problem, because some of you will own that. You'll even own it while it's happening. You'll start to go, oh, I love this, I love this, I love this. So what you're doing is you're reinforcing the I. Others of you will go, "What's he doing? I don't know. I don't really see. Why is his hand moving? What's that? What's that?" And you'll be intellectualizing what's going on, but what's going on is really, really, it's very smart. Is all I can tell you. Even getting you to go, "Why is he doing that?" takes you out of some place that's blocked, and the action, the energy can go into that place. Usually heart, throat chakra, various navel chakras that are very defended. So if I can get you out of the way of defending it, the energy goes right there to that spot and goes, and it really is it's so satisfying. It's so beautiful, and it always reflects back. I'm instructed throughout the whole process. It's not even instruction, because I'm not doing anything. It's just happening. It's happening. And what I'm trying to tell you while I describe this to you is this is what you can do to every moment of your own day. In other words, meet the moment, meet it in its discordancy, meet it in its distractedness, meet it in some place that it's not connecting for you, whatever that may be, a patient you don't like in the office, a person you have to meet, you have to talk to on the phone, whatever. Just enter into it, accept it, love it, become present with it, and the situation harmonizes. And you find a way to engage each moment as a living presence, a living, conscious part of your evolving day and of your existence. Honestly, this is going on all the time. But most of you, what happens is you react. You react, I don't like this person, I don't like that, and so you create a closed quantity around the situation that then finishes it, and it's a locked away unpleasantness, and it's in your life. It's just it's now built into the structure. There's a kind of yucky quality, and you try to push it away somewhere, and the day goes on and you forget about it, but it's in there. And usually the thing you've closed to is the thing you've been closing to for your whole life in various people, in various circumstances. So you're always in the same form of rejection, and you build up this dark mass of rejection or tension or not liking something. And then, to make this very circular, you get sick. Suddenly, there's a pain in your chest, in my case. That's been there since you were a kid. It's now very present. It didn't just come up. It didn't just happen. It has been happening for a very long time. And now I cannot not look at it because it hurts. It's there. And I go into this space, and if somebody says to me, yogurt, I go, yogurt? This has been going on for 65 years. Yogurt is not the answer. There is no answer. Herbs are not the answer. I mean, maybe all of that would help. Yes, maybe it would all deal symptomatically with stuff. But this is stuff that has come out of rejection of things for my whole life. And as you grow spiritually, you get an opportunity to start to undo all of this stuff. You start to be able to look at everything in you and finally go, thy will be done. If this is the thing that's going to kill me, then it has purpose. You know, I'm not going to be angry at the thing that kills me. It's been building from my whole life. It builds in all of us. And finally you go, I get it. I get it. This thing that I've been doing my whole life was there from the beginning in order to take me out of this world. It has purpose. And as much as I feel bad about having closed down to certain people and certain circumstances and certain fears, they were part of the process. And there's this unbelievable embrace of the totality. The embrace of what is. This loving what is. And if there is an answer, it's not a rigid answer. It's not a, this is how you do it answer. The answer is love what is. Thank you, Byron Katie. The answer is love what is. And I don't mean that in any kind of structured way, because there's no structured way to do it. The things that come up are so unexpected and so out of the blue, and so who knows what they are. But then you just have to show up, be present, and love happens. Love of your life happens. Love of your daily life happens. And this thing just wafts out, and you just live like that. And the experience of this life right now for me is 50 years of sitting has allowed something of enormous simplicity to arise, which is just what I'm talking. Loving my life. Loving what arises, moment to moment to moment. And it's taken all these years, because you don't learn it immediately. You know, Catherine was talking a little bit ago about horses and how easy it is to work with a horse that's a baby that hasn't been trained, and how hard it is to work with a horse that's got all of its rigidity in place. It's got to be untrained, because the training may have been really bad and it's not functioning well for itself or for the rider or anybody, and you've got to untrain it. We're all mostly in a place of having to untrain ourselves, because we are rigid with thoughts about how it should be, might be, ought to be, could have been, all of that stuff, and it locks us up. The great thing about this meditation is you bring focus into the arena. You will feel, I do when I sit down, areas are tight, areas are loose, thoughts are coming through, there's stuff going on, and I just get quieter and quieter and quieter, more and more present, and this incredible sweetness, this harmony, this sexy, beautiful, joyful thing emerges and wafts out into everybody who's around. Does it happen all the time? Ask Blanche. The answer is no. It does not happen all the time. There are moments of tension, there are moments of drama. You know, I mean, stuff happens. And is it the right thing or the wrong thing? I don't know. My grandson, you know, started throwing stones in the pool. I said, don't throw stones in the pool. He wouldn't listen to me. I smacked him on the hand, which I never would normally do. And he was amazed by that. And then he starts throwing stones in the pool and hitting his hand. So we don't learn well. We don't learn. We're not, you know, but these are the lessons that come into us, you know, over the course of time. We put things together inappropriately, badly, and we have to unlearn that stuff. The best way to unlearn it is to go inside, relax, as Rudy would say, ask for help to surrender. Allow the energy of somebody who loves you to come in. You know, love, be in action, and be a purveyor of love. And change will happen. You will free yourself of the self that you've been locked into for all of these years. And then, if you're really lucky in the equation, that self will have become so complete and full and whole and comfortable that you can let it go. Because that happens as well. Only when you have a healthy, happy self can you be free of yourself. I mean, not only because it happens in different ways, but that's the best way. Love the self so you can let it go. Hating yourself makes it really hard. So, that's a lot of circles to try to put together into one piece. But I think the takeaway, there's no answer. If there is an answer, it is not Chinese herbs. If there is an answer, it's simple, and it has to do with love and being present. Any questions?
So we don't have to worry about you.
You don't have to. If you worry about me, you're wasting your time. Total waste of time. No, I mean, look, I went to doctors and they did all the stuff they should do. You know, I took all the tests I needed to take, and they say it's not life-threatening. And I can really feel, this has been around a long, long time, you know, and it's just exacerbated. So I'm losing weight. I'm not hungry. That's not a bad thing in the scheme of things. And you know, my mood is wonderful. You know, but you know, something isn't right, and we'll figure it out through various things, and it may in the end be yogurt. I mean, it could be as simple as that. But my feeling is, find the path to whatever it is you're experiencing, and don't cover it up and don't run from it and don't pretend it's not there. And certain things happen in people's lives, especially at my age, where you can't hide. You can't. Pain is hard to hide from. You know.
So when you sit with it, what are you finding?
Mostly that it dissipates. That the intensity of it goes away. It may return, but it tends to go away. You know, and certain positions, postures, things cause it more problems. I don't want to self-analyze it all here because I don't fully understand it, but it's very solar plexus, and solar plexus means a lot to me. And I've worked with this area for my whole life, and this has kind of been there my whole life, but now again it's announcing itself in rather dramatic terms. Anyone else?
So when you're sitting with it, you're going like emotional and spiritual roots, or just not?
No, I'm just
thinking,
sitting
being,
quiet,
being.
sitting quietly and watching.
Okay.
It's part of me. You know, it's not outside me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like something that came from some magician or some dark force. It's who I am. It's part of what I am. Those are all the things that we ultimately go through. It's part of the DNA. You know, my dad had these issues. My son has these issues. You know, it's just been there for a long time, and it goes way into the system. So we are what we are, and we're also none of the above, as I've said before. So, you know, but you know, Nisargadatta, you know, when he smoked his whole life and he died of cancer, throat cancer, and it was horrible, painful, and he was not a happy camper at the end, and I totally understand that. But, you know, this is a big journey that we're all on, and it has many stages, and most of those stages are all leading to one thing, which is a departure from all of this. On the other hand, why focus on that when there's all this? And the thing I get, of course, is, I talk about it a lot, is the joy of the moment. And I've been blessed with these little ones, you know, who are just so alive and so vibrant and so in the moment that all I do is I just play now. I just play and play and play. And it's like, I was a great kid. I loved to play. I was really good at it. I was one of the neighborhood kids who organized everybody to play, and always inventive, and everybody got excited. We put on shows, and we dug holes in the field, and we had adventures and tunnels and all of these things, and you know, and I know how to do that. So I'm doing it with the grandchildren, and they're doing it with me, and it's a wonderful sort of return to who we are. So, I mean, you can't do that midlife, although you can have moments you can do it. You know, my son's very good at this, my son Josh, and he really plays with his children really well, because that's his real nature. His problem is day-to-day functioning in the world, which, you know, he's never wanted to have to do, and yet it's all part of the system. So we have to learn to do with the thing that's coming up at the moment. Midlife is the worst. It's just the worst. And I have so many people contacting me about how do I get through this. I mean, a lot of people now, and it's really interesting. There are people suffering a lot because, I don't want to do a whole diatribe on what's happening in the world, but the sharing economy, for example, is just people who don't have security anymore at all, job security. Wow, talk about insecurity. That's the source of it, and everything I'm talking about is like, yeah, good, great, wonderful, but how do I pay the bills? And when you're in that mode, nothing I'm teaching is going to have much impact. You know, I mean, it has a little impact, but not enough to get you through it. So there's a lot of the world needs to be addressed, and everybody has to address it on their own terms. It's just the way it works. Okay. Next week I'll be in LA. The week after I'll be here. The week after I'll be in New York. So in 2 weeks we'll be back here. Thank you guys so much for coming. You have no idea how grateful I am that you do this on Sunday morning. Thank you.